Sonic Crossworlds is finally out and people are loving the game. But if you're anything like me, you see all of these options and immediately get overwhelmed. I mean, there's dozens of characters, carts, and don't even get me started on the gadgets. So I decided to do my research and find the very best builds that Sonic Crossworlds has to offer, so that you don't have to. I have a large range of builds that we'll talk about today, but starting off, we're going to immediately jump into the main one everyone really wants to know about. The Extreme Gear builds. The Extreme Gear is incredibly good at continually building up boost and maintaining top speed at all times, hence its rebrand to the boost category. The Extreme Gear, while being really good, is also super easy to push around since it's so light, so you need to be extra careful while running this. These builds leave little room for error and you're going to be playing a different kind of game to go fast, but if you can pull it off, you'll leave everyone else in the dust. One of the best builds I've seen so far is the Drift King build Speedrunner Emerald told me about. This build utilizes technical drift, which enables your drift to charge up the boost faster, but it does add an element of risk. This is worded weirdly in the tooltip when it mentions that it increases chances to slide out. Essentially what this means is that you get ice physics while drifting, which can make it difficult to stay on the course. If you are able to handle this downside, the benefit of charging the meter quickly is huge. On top of this, you run level 2 and 3 quick charge, which will enable you to max out the 3 drift meters. This combination of gadgets allows you to max out your drift meter so quickly, it's almost as fast as clicking the subscribe button. Because you can max the meter out so quickly, the final gadget here is Ultimate Charge, which will allow you to gain a 4th drift meter. The 4th meter allows for an even bigger boost at the end of the drift, which does work when trying to catch up or create even more space from your competition. Something I didn't know for a while is that the 4th drift meter also briefly makes you invulnerable. I should also speak about another technique that benefits from this build called snaking. With this build, you charge up meters so fast you can actually drift to one direction and then immediately start a drift to the other side. While the game normally knocks your drift meter down enough for this not to be worth it, this build actually flips that on its head. You can snake back and forth on straightaways and build up a full boost meter while barely losing any speed at all. So this kit allows you to quickly build up boost and stay in a near perpetual state of invincible boost, as long as you're able to snake well, making it one of, if not the best builds in this entire game. There are quite a few variants of this build that are also very good, so I'll mention a few I've seen around, and feel free to try them out if it calls to you. This version, posted by Eggert on YouTube, uses the technical drift and ultimate charge, but trades out the quick charge gadgets for Air Trick Adept and Air Trick Bounty. This allows for you to get the same potential for tier 4 drifts, while also increasing ability to get better boosts from air tricking as well. Air Trick Bounty stacks well with the increased tricking ability, as it gives you 2 rings every time you trick, which helps increase your max speed. Expanding on this variant even farther, Emerald also mentioned another variant in a short of his that has a very similar idea. If you sub out Technical Drift and Ultimate Charge for the Drift Charge Kit, you still get the benefits of gaining rings to increase max speed, while keeping a lot of the upside of Technical Drift. The build ends up looking like Drift Charge Kit, Air Trick Expert, and Air Trick Bounty. The addition of Drift Charge Kit is basically just a better version of Technical Drift, as it helps your drift charge faster and actually improves your handling instead of harming it, at the cost of an extra gadget slot. This does mean that you lose the 4th drift meter and the invincibility that comes with it though, so it's really up to your preference. All of these builds I just mentioned are very good, so you can't really go wrong. Now moving on to the bread and butter of any kart racing game, the speed karts. These are built around reaching max speed and attempting to stay there as long as possible. That being said, these builds are focused on accentuating that strength in various ways. This first build is inspired by Environmental AD, which I have coined the Moneybags build. This originally included Ring Gain Boost 2, Dash Panel Mini Bounty, Air Trick Bounty, Slipstream Bounty, and Ring Range Up. I like this build with the speed cart because the whole idea is increasing your max speed and trying to stay at that max. I do like the idea of trying to max out your rings here, but I have an idea of my own. My variation of this build adds 130 ring limit, mini ring boost, and extended slipstream, while keeping the air trick, slipstream, and dash panel bounties. Shout out to Stickman Guides for doing testing on how rings affect max speed, because my idea of this was completely wrong. Apparently speed caps at 100 rings even if you use the 200 ring limit gadget, so I swapped to 130 rings limit instead. The main reason I'm even still using a higher ring limit is so that I could always stay above that 100 ring threshold even when I get hit. A big point from that testing video was that the jump between 99 rings and 100 rings is massive, so you want to stay at or above that threshold for the entire time you're using this build. Getting back to the gadgets, I added in the extended slipstream gadget to allow for even more opportunity to farm this bounty. After coming up with the idea for this build, I tried it out and it honestly shocked me how easy it was to farm rings. If you aren't front running and are near other racers at all, you're getting rings. It is so nice. The next build is what I like to call the ultimate bagger. Shout out to Savic for telling me about this one, and I also found out later that a good amount of top players on the board run this as well. While Savic runs a power cart, which is totally viable, I prefer a speed cart for reasons I'll speak on later. This build utilizes inventory plus and wisp chance up, while adding in inventory swap to the mix. This allows you to hold on to the items you want by swapping them around all 3 slots, and save some of the best you can get. This leads to the strategy known as bagging being so overpowered. Bagging is when you intentionally hang towards the lower ranks in a race so you can get the best items in the game. If you manage to catch up while saving some of these items, it's totally possible you can slingshot all the way to the front or even win the race. I prefer a speed cart for this build because by nature of the build, you'll be playing from behind at the end of the race, and the extra speed will be key to catch up. Moving on to the power carts, these are the absolute units. These things may as well be a tank, and they sure as hell race like it. No handling, slow startup, and mid-max speed. How are you even supposed to win in this thing? Well, the answer is getting creative, and that's exactly what we're going to do with these builds. This next build is one that I created back in the open network test, and I have loved it so much ever since. A build I would even argue is my personal main. Introducing Spin to Win Zaz. Now I know what you're thinking, why him? But with this build, both from a stat perspective and personality-wise, fits perfectly. Zaz is an acceleration character, which this build desperately needs considering you're driving around in a literal tank. And when we get into the build and its playstyle, you'll see why Zaz is perfect. Obviously, in the Spin to Win build, the most important piece is the spin drift. This allows you to turn into a Beyblade when drifting and sends your competitors flying into the air, which disrupts their pathing and slows them. To pair with this, I like to include Collision Boost, which gives you a boost when you run into people. So not only are you slowing and disrupting other racers, but you're boosting yourself at the same time. This build turns Sonic Crossworlds into a game of bumper cars, as you go completely out of your way to bully the other racers into submission, or even throw them off the track entirely. For the other gadgets on this build, I have been using Quick Charge to make the spins even better, and Power Tuner to make my tank even more invincible. The last 2 gadgets are where I definitely have the most room for change, and this is likely not the final iteration of the build, so let me know in the comments what you would run here. This build is incredibly fun. Even if it isn't the best build out there, it is absolutely still competitive. Another pretty unique build was mentioned by Midi John on YouTube called Warlord Zavok. Funny how the 2 main power builds I found include villains from Sonic Lost World. This build starts with Zavok, who is a power character and a power cart. For gadgets, Midi John runs Wisp Chance Up, Short Fuse, Attack Item Up, and Item Hoarder. Wow, I didn't think it got worse than Spin to Win Zaz. Well, except for the monster truck start, but we aren't even going there. This build is basically just driving around in a tank, shooting bombs at everyone you come across, and honestly kinda fits the character. Warlord Zavok isn't the best in terms of winning, but it is a super fun build, and really good for trolling people. The biggest issue with this build is unless you're a god at using the bomb, these items are really just single target for the most part, meaning that you will need a ton of item boxes to catch up if you fall to the back half. But if you do fall behind, you will absolutely rain hell upon unsuspecting racers. And for that alone, this build is 100% worth trying out if your current build is getting boring. So there are 2 more types of carts in the game, but honestly, I'm not too sure people use these a lot. I don't know, this could be a blind spot for me, but I swear I barely see these carts, and on top of that, I basically didn't see any comments on these either. So I kept looking deeper and deeper, and still came up with nothing. So I've scoured the game looking for ideal builds for these types of carts, and this is what I came up with. To start, I used an acceleration cart, and for this one, the type of character isn't too important. In terms of stats, speed, acceleration, or handling seems to work the best though. In terms of gadgets, this kit isn't too complicated. I take the drift kit since it's one of the best gadgets in the game and super slow starter. Yep, that's it. Now the reason why this combo works so well together is because with an acceleration cart and one of the character types I mentioned, the stats lined up perfectly for super slow starter. This gadget gives you plus 20 on every stat for the entire final lap. I don't know about you, but the end seems to be basically all that matters in kart racers in general, and Crossworlds is no exception. This build gives you some of the best drifting in the game and nearly max stats for speed and acceleration, while everything else gets a really solid buff on the final lap. The way I like to think about this build is you're a late game scaler, essentially bagging but with stats instead of items. And when that final lap hits, you can outrace anyone. Try this build out if you want a no-nonsense, gimmick-free build that still makes you feel really powerful. And of course, we have to get in a handling build as well. This one was one of the hardest for me to figure out since I couldn't really find like anything online. I pretty much had to just come up with something myself. As someone who doesn't really play these carts, I was at a loss. But after some experimenting, I think I actually found something really solid. You want to run a handling cart here with really any character type. I usually went with speed, but quite a few will work here. For the gadgets, it's relatively simple. Handling cart kit and drift charge kit. That's all. This build is what I like to call Drift King the 4th. Thought you were done with this after the boost section, eh? This style of play is just very broken, and the handling cart kit is actually focused on drifting. This gives you the 4th drift meter like ultimate charge, as well as a big increase in the handling stat. This build felt surprisingly good, and honestly my biggest issue was having such good handling that I wasn't used to it, and I kept bumping into walls or falling off the track. This build is pretty good, but honestly it may just be better to run boost boards unless you want the extra handling and a little extra power, so you don't get bullied off the track. Now that we've talked about all the builds separately, I'm going to talk about just how good I think these builds are compared to each other. While all of these builds are solid and you can definitely win with them, there are a few that stand above the rest. It's the boost carts. It's always been the boost carts. I mean, these things just fly. Like, they're just so stupid broken, you have people out there begging for a patch on them. Like I said, you can still win with these other carts, and don't get me wrong, they're very fun. But if you want to compete at a high level, you're only hurting yourself if you don't try to run really any of the boost builds that I mentioned here. As for the other carts, I would say that funny enough, they're all on a relatively even level. I tried to only show some of the best builds in the game, and honestly this game is surprisingly balanced outside of the boost builds. There were quite a few other builds I saw that weren't super interesting to me, or I thought that they were pretty flawed. Basically, every build that I talked about in this video is really solid, and I do implore that you try them out. If I did actually have to rank them though, I would probably say it goes boost builds, speed builds, power builds, and then everything else. While there are quite a few builds in each of these categories, I really do think the playstyle of the carts themselves is really the big difference maker, while the gadgets just accentuate their strengths. That's about all I got for now. Let me know what builds you've been using, and if there are any I think that are really good that I missed, I'll credit you in a pinned comment. If you want exclusive content, early access to new videos, or member shoutouts, make sure to join my Patreon linked in the description below. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.